There is an overwhelming flood of information that is hijacking our lives. This isn't just social media notifications or endless news alerts. It's about how distraction and information overload is changing our decision-making process, our focus, and even our sense of self. Every day it seems like we're bombarded with what seems like unimportant data, news, opinions, and trendy must-haves, and random bits of trivia. And as our world evolves, our brains are finding it harder and harder to filter out what matters. In the digital era where you can bookmark an article, save a video, or put a product in your wish list that takes seconds, it can become all too easy to fall into the trap of accumulation and endless content without even processing it. And I've got a confession to make. I'm addicted. Yes, I'm addicted. I'm addicted to wanting to know everything, whether it's an article on self-development or watching tech reviews, to adding every book that I hear to my reading list. I'm addicted to hoarding those pieces of information that I'm meant to consume later. And before you know it, I've got this chaotic pile that I never really end up looking at. And something tells me I'm not alone in this. We've all seen this before, the humble bookmark. Traditionally, it was a simple tool to let you know where you are when you're reading a book. But as of late, this icon, this tool has evolved. And now it's taken much more of a complicated role. It's not just about picking up where you left off from. It's about hoarding information, whether it's Kindle books or your Netflix watch later list, or just things that you've seen on Instagram. And I remember way back in the day, I'm probably showing my age here now, where computers were much more larger. They were huge. They were these massive machines with a huge screen and a separate modem by the side. Back then, Yahoo was the search engine to go to. But the thing is though, websites were still kind of slow. Downloads took forever. To obtain any type of information, it took a level of effort. Fast forward today, forget Yahoo. Google is the new kid on the block. And their mission statement at one point in time was to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And while that sounds incredible, and now with that newfound information, whether it's relevant or not, we now have to be able to sift through it. And this abundance has a price. That price being you being able to distinguish what you actually need. Have you ever tried juggling tasks like checking emails and watching TV, or scrolling through social media while talking to a friend? In the book One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, they make a compelling case against multitasking, arguing that it's nothing more than a myth. They point out that when we think we're handling several tasks at the same time, what we're actually doing is rapid switching, resulting in diminished attention and reduced efficiency. And this constant back and forth is just inefficient. It's also a major source in what experts call information fatigue syndrome. Our minds become overloaded with fragmented pieces of data, leaving us stressed, anxious, and it even leads to burnout. Keller and Papasan emphasize that when our focus is spread out too thin, we end up with a shallow understanding of things rather than deep, meaningful insights. Instead of truly absorbing information, we are left with clutter and undigested thoughts and ideas. And the speed at which information is flowing is incredible. There seems to be this emphasis of quantity over quality. It's like fast food for your mind, easily and consumable, rarely nourishing. Whereas something like books, for example, represent true knowledge. They demand focus, reflection, and deep engagement. You can even experience this with movies or even music, because they tell stories and they invoke emotion in ways that a 30-second viral clip can't. So let's just draw a parallel here with something that's a bit more tangible. Let's just say it's food. For most of human history, food was a scarce resource. In the 1940s and 50s, advances in food manufacturing meant that we can eat more freely. However, this abundance came with its own set of problems. Readily available food to health issues like obesity, heart disease, and diabetes. And then the fitness movement emerged in the 1970s as a countermeasure, urging us to rethink our diet and our consumption habits. And I believe we're experiencing a similar crisis with information. Just as our bodies suffer when we consume too much junk food, our minds suffer when we ingest too much junk information. And when we are constantly gorging ourselves on content, while plentiful, it often lacks the nourishment our brains need to thrive. How can we combat this? I think we need to be more deliberate in what we're consuming. Cut out whatever doesn't enhance your life. If you've ever encountered a piece of content that leaves you feeling worse than before, maybe it's time to unfollow. I took a long hard look at my social accounts and I really had to think, why am I following this person? And I ended up removing loads that I thought that weren't providing any type of value. Really think about the message that you're left left with when you've consumed a piece of content and how you're feeling after. Are you feeling motivated and inspired? Or is it content with little or no substance? Is it fueled with drama and sensationalism? A lot of accounts are fed with sensationalism, and it's a way to grab your attention because they know if they feed off the negative, we're more likely to pay attention to it. And if you do this, you can get caught into the cycle of focusing and reading these outlandish titles. Ask yourself, is this a source that I care about? Can I learn something meaningful? We need to be as picky with our mental intake as we are with our diets. I've discovered a real pleasure in reading long-form content, whether it's article or books, and also informational podcasts. And I think this is a really healthy medium if you don't like reading, because it provides you with so much content in a few hours if you're willing to sit down and just listen. And I've noticed the popularity within podcasts. It just seems to be a growing market. And I think this actually provides me with some hope. It shows me people are shifting towards long-form content, and there is a market for it, because long-form podcasts provide a stark contrast to the endless stream of superficial content that often leaves us feeling overwhelmed and undernourished intellectually. And in these extended conversations, hosts and guests dive deeply into subjects, exploring nuances and intricacies that are simply lost in the rapid consumption of short clips. But amongst all of this, technology itself isn't a bad thing. Information isn't the enemy. Remember, the goal isn't to know everything. Start small to try and reclaim your focus. In this busy world, our mental well-being is our greatest asset. If this video resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with a friend who might need to hear this message. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you guys in another one.